good friend Ed Anderson here. Ed is from Real Self, and we met back in 2015 when Ed was in Memphis and I needed somebody to work at my startup at the time at Big Door, and I interviewed him over the phone and over video, and he killed it in the interview, and came and rocked it at DevOps at Big Door, and I miss having you around, man.
Yeah, dude, we should hang. I'm not too far down the street.
That's right.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming, Ed. Thank you all for coming and listening to Ed's talk today.
All right.
I guess you totally stole some of my material, but whatever. Yeah, so my name is Ed Anderson. I have been working in technology now for 20 years because I am old as shit, as you may notice from this gray hair and gray beard. I have worked in telecom industry. I have worked in healthcare. I have worked in shipping and logistics for like Fortune 50 companies, and all right, man. No, it's just freaking me out a little bit. It's cool. And 12-person startups, and those are both really different experiences. Right now, I'm a manager, a line manager for a thing called SRE, which hopefully you've heard about. It's basically like operations and automation engineering. My team, we help Real Self build software quickly. We deploy it fast. We have tools for rolling back. We help build out and build robust systems for monitoring and understanding what's going on. Can I just hold this? All right. Yeah, cool. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I can hear me now, so that's a lot better. So like, I think the thing that helps to bring some relevance to y'all specifically is I'm a high school graduate. I didn't go to college, and like I know some of you are beginning second careers or third careers or more. Some of you probably like avoided college altogether, and it's a little bit different in competitive labor markets, which you are in Seattle. Like you are in the best place in the world to be looking for a tech job right now, but it is also super competitive, and I know that y'all have coursework and training around like how to prepare for this, and I encourage you to make use of that. We've been talking a little bit about like some of the material that's in there. I think I'm going to be reinforcing most of the messages that you get, but like you are going to have to work harder to be recognized and to be seriously considered until you have some experience. And like, just set the table with that, set your expectations with that, and you're going to do fine. So yeah, man, I hear y'all want to be software developers. Again, like I graduated high school in 1996, and I really wish that this kind of thing had existed then, because it was obvious like I wasn't going to college, and I like to mess around with computers, and that was possibly lucrative. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, so like everything's a little bit different down there. Take my word for it. And this wasn't there, so like what I got was OJT. My working experience was like, hey, we need somebody who can do this thing. This kid looks like he can do this thing. Let's see what works. And it took me like 4 or 5 years of combining like doing the work that needed to be done for me to get my paycheck with building opportunities for learning, like what is syntax and grammar, like how do you do loops, these like very fundamental building blocks that everyone who's in software development uses over and over again to build the great diversity that is software on the internet today. I had to learn that kind of on the go, and it was slow and it was painful, and I think that y'all are going to be like so much better prepared to make an impact when you get into the technology side of the workforce. And I think that like this program is excellent, and I'm not saying that because I know Jeff. Like I think this is awesome, and I think that you're making a great choice. But I also want to let you know that software is terrible and computers are terrible, but you're gonna do it anyway, right? Because it's lucrative and it's fulfilling and it's a creative endeavor, and like working in software can change your life in a very fundamental way, in a way that a lot of industries cannot do that. I mean, it isn't all just about financial reward. People, I'm sure y'all look at job postings, like look at the startups that are here in Seattle. People are like, I think this one actually recently folded, but they were mining minerals from comets in space. I mean, like, where the hell are you going to find the opportunity for people who think that that's a good idea? I mean, this is just like, this is the greatest industry in the world, man. I mean, like, it's totally changed my life to be in software. It's It's changed my family's life. And, you know, I think that y'all have a future that looks like a great job with good benefits and great pay, and you're doing a creative pursuit, and that shit is hard to find. You know, like, for me, that's like, all the things that are important to me are checked right there. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the first startup that I worked in, which was not a technology startup. It was a delicatessen in Jackson, Mississippi. Yes, that is a thing we eat down there. It's cool. It's a big franchise now called McAllister's Deli. When I started there, they had 2 stores, and they were just beginning the process of franchising. So, like, I worked in the kitchen there mostly because I'm not super great with people, and that was the best place for them to put me. And we had people coming through who were like buying franchises. They had to work every position in there, so they were like talking to us about like, what is it to build a business? What is this process like for them? What kind of investment does it take with them? And while I was working there for a period of like 2 years, you know, like my bosses kept getting nicer and nicer cars, and like more and more people kept coming through, and it was obvious there was like an economic engine at play there, but I was not a part of it because I was an entry-level employee, and federal, you know, income, federal minimum wage in that time was $4.75 an hour, which is exactly what I was making. You can kind of do the math on that, but like my monthly take-home working 35 hours a week was something like $500 a month. I lived in an apartment with 2 of my friends. We paid $750 a month for that. Half of my income directly went to rent, and like, you know, that doesn't leave a lot of slack for like food or beer or parties or being sick and out for a week. You know, all of those things can be like super detrimental, and whatever, man. I am not going back, I guess. And so, like, seeing this happen around me and wanting that for myself, I decided I was going to go get a job with a technology startup, right? So I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi. There's this huge company that had been from there called WorldCom, which, like, you may or may not be familiar with, but it's just like a lot of telecom in Jackson, Mississippi, which is super bizarre if you've ever been there, because it's like a little 2-horse town, you know. Anyway, so I looked who was advertising for dial-up access in the phone book, and I found one of them did have a physical phone book. The phone book has the address of businesses in them too, so I got in my car and I drove over there, and I was like, hey, I know something about computers. You guys are hiring. Where's an application? How do we fill this out? And they were like, oh, do you have a resume? Not with me. I did not have a resume. I had only had jobs where you like filled out applications and interviewed on the spot to that point. So they were like, go get your resume and come back. So I go back to my house. I found out what a resume was, and I'm like, what do these people want a resume for me from? I made sandwiches, like, put it on the paper if you want, but like, we both know what that means. So that's what I did, and that is what they wanted. I don't know, maybe it was ceremonial for them or whatever. But they were like, great, we need warm bodies in the phone pit, taking calls from people's grandparents who want to be on the internet and don't understand anything about computers, which was like, man, there was some choice stuff that came across that telephone. Just trust me. But like, that's how I got started, man. And the company that I worked in, Jackson, Mississippi, in the late 90s was a super constrained labor market. There were not people there who knew how to do software development. There were not people there that understood telecommunications. And they were like, we get a warm body, this kid's willing to read, and we got a list of problems 5 miles long, like, give him something else. And they were like, hey, nobody really understands how the modem banks work. Do you think you could read the manual on that and like figure out where we are? Do we need capacity or whatever? And I'm like, whatever, what do I care? Reading about that, and they're like, oh yeah, well, you know, the other admin, he really needs to take a week off so that he doesn't like eat a bullet because he's been here nonstop for 2 weeks. Do you think you can do something with Unix on this machine? It's like, and he kind of showed me the ropes there, and like, you know, it just kept growing and growing and growing, and I imagine that that is still the system that is in place, right? Like, you show up with a minimum set of skills, you find somebody who's got a reasonable intersection expectations for what you can bring to the table, and you go make beautiful music together, right? And that's what, like, that's your sweet spot, man. That's the thing that you'll need to be looking for. We're gonna talk a little bit about like some specific techniques that I like to use when I'm looking for a job that I think that you should be using when you look for a job to kind of like make sure that you're finding the right marks as you put your effort into that, because like looking for a job's a big deal. It takes a lot of time, energy, like, you know, you guys talk about spoons, you go about spoons, like you do this thing, but it take spoons. Basically, like, everyone has a limited capacity of emotional output in a given day, and some things that you do detract from that. Some things that you do add to that, but like, we all have our limits, and for me, I'll use my I statements here. For me, looking for a job is one of those things that takes my spoons away, man. Like, it's super stressful to me. I'm meeting new people, and I realize that I'm kind of like standing here in front of all of you right now, but I assure you this is not my happy place, and I am much more comfortable back there in the corner with the monitor in front of me and headphones on so that people think I'm busy. No, probably not. You know, like, it's super stressful. So there's some things that I use, actually. A mutual friend, Jeff, introduced me to this dude that we used to work with. His name is Ring. He has this great blog, which I'll tell you about later, but like, there are ways to excel at this. And yeah, so like, just talking a little bit about the startup world, these people, when I went to go work with them, their name was World Access Solutions. All right, so I like drove to this office kind of on the outskirts of town. We'd probably call it an incubator today, but at that point it was called an industrial park. And I worked with them for a little while, and they were like, I came in on like a Thursday, and they were like, hey, we're having a meeting in the back room. Why don't you come over here? Everybody's coming. I was like, okay, whatever. I walked in there, they shut the door behind me, and they're like, we're out of money. We gotta let you go. We're gonna call you back when we get some more money, but like, right now you gotta go home. I won't tell you what I said. You can guess. Yeah, so like a couple weeks go by. I don't know what the venture capital world is like in Jackson. Definitely not at the time, but they got more money, and they were like, hey, we're back in business, and now we're called A-Rigs. You want to come join the band? Get the band back together, man. Come on. And I was like, hell yes, I hate making sandwiches. Let's do this thing. But eventually we had that same meeting again where they were like, yeah, you know, revenue's just not right, man. Everybody's got to go. We love you. We're going to call you back when we get some more money. Damn if they didn't do it again. Shut it back up. Dude. Like, we got it. There's 6 months of runway. The band's back together. Come on, man. And like, so it went, you know, and like, I'm sharing that story with you because it's kind of ridiculous, but also like, sometimes that's the way it goes, you know, like if you feel like you're the startup person, you should know that like, with risk comes reward, but risk is a real thing, and like, you may one day find yourself coming into the office to like, hey, guess what, man, by Christmas, everybody needs to go home, and you know, that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna try to help everybody get a spot, but like, you know, it's over, man. Fun while it lasted. And the great thing about that as like an applicant is like, that doesn't mean jack to you, man. That has like no negative reflection on you. And people move around inside technology, especially like early career people, so frequently that like, probably no one's gonna bat an eye at that. And even if someone does ask you questions about like, why were you here for 4 months? We ran out of cash. We got bought out, you know? I mean, all those things, everybody knows that stuff happens. It's cool, whatever. So yeah, man, and the most important thing that happened to me personally when I started working in technology was your boy Ed made $9 an hour, almost double what minimum wage was and what I've been making before. And like, I suddenly had plenty of beer money. I suddenly had plenty of money for all of the other shit that I was interested in, and like, it took a lot of pressure off of my life, and I didn't do a great job of saving it or putting it to constructive uses, but I really enjoyed it. You know, and there are people who are going to tell you, you shouldn't do this for money. Money doesn't matter. And I'm going to tell you that those people are full of shit. And yeah, I mean, dude, it's cool. It's cool. You know, like, if you think that money doesn't matter, that's because you aren't financially stressed. You know, and like, I hope we're all there one day. I hope you're there. I hope I'm there. But the reality is that we enjoy sort of a disproportionately high rate of pay with this industry, and we don't have to be ashamed because the thing that we do is profitable. I do think that if you go looking for jobs where your primary motivator is only money, you're going to end up earning it, much like people who marry for money earn it. Sort of a backhanded compliment from my hometown there. You know, the same thing's kind of true with jobs where like, but I mean, you know, I've taken jobs just for the cash where they were like, hey, we pay 20% more than you're making now. I was like, okay, see you tomorrow. You know, hey, not coming back, got a better job, out. Didn't stay terribly long, just to share that with you. But yeah, man, I think there's no shame in it, and I think that you need to be honest with yourself if that's one of your motivators, because one of the tools that we're going to be building here shortly is understanding your own motivations and I hire people, like, I got a team of 6 right now, I'm gonna have a team of 9, at the end of next year, totally hiring, if you're thinking about SRE, ed@realself.com. But, you know, like, people who come to me, who understand why they're working and, you know, can clearly explain that to me, that totally resonates with me. And again, like, money can't be the only thing, but it's okay if money's one of the things that you are looking for. I give you permission to say that to someone else. So, like, why did your friend Ed with no skills to speak of, like, why did this work for me? It totally worked for me because I was in a constrained labor market. You are also kind of in a constrained labor market, but not in this, excuse me, I'm drinking this delicious bubble water. Yeah, you're kind of in a constrained labor market, but not really in the same way that I was, where, like, there weren't people with CS degrees to compete against me, and, like, you know, there weren't other people with the same skills. Like, it was all, you know, man, I'm from Mississippi. Quite frankly, it's a bunch of, like, linemen were my competition, you know, people who were, like, up on cherry pickers, working on telephones, understood the telephone system, which is relatively complex. But, you know, and you can look at me and you can see, like, I'm a white cishet dude. The entire system is set up for my success here in this country, and there is no doubt that I've benefited from that. You know, and that should be recognized. All of you will not enter the labor market with, you know, those things in your favor, but you can still make an entrance and you can still make a meaningful ingress into it. And there were some other things that were in my favor, like I found a place that it wasn't important to them that I had experience. It was important to them that, like, they had spare time where they could let me learn and train and give me gear safely. And, you know, that was awesome. That was awesome for them. That was awesome for me, and away we went. And that's gonna be, like, one of the things that you need to figure out is, like, what's the stuff that you need? What's the stuff that they're looking for? Find an intersection. So, and the other thing that is, like, quite frankly, to your benefit, much more than it was when I began, is the rate of change in the technology industry is, like, fucking astounding. Skills are good for, like, 2-year periods right now. Even when I started, modems were going from, I know, like, nobody uses modems anymore, but, like, once upon a time, you used to use a telephone to get on the internet. And so, like, when I started, modems were running at, like, 33.6 baud, then we got 56K baud, and they sounded a little bit different, so, like, everybody who worked on the floor could, like, hear the difference of, like, people be like, why isn't this thing working? Oh, you have a shitty modem. You know, like, that's why it's slow. Actually, doing the internet over the telephone is incredibly slow. Like, analog internet, don't do that unless you have no other options. But, like, a very little bit of experience goes a crazy long way, and you're gonna find that, like, as you have just a little bit, your pitch for yourself is super solid because of the results that you're producing, and everybody knows, like, if you have been active in the past 6 months with, like, Node, you know, and you're using, like, modern frameworks, which, like, Node is famous for changing those on a regular basis, but, like, you know, there aren't a lot of people with that. And quite frankly, like, people who have jobs right now, especially people who have jobs at big companies, don't have that. They're using the shit that was popular, like, 2 years ago, and the company is probably feeling frustrated that things aren't moving faster, right? So, like, you have super valuable skills to bring. I sampled my Twitter network before coming out here to see, like, what other people's experiences had been who also were, like, non-traditional. I heard back from just a ton of people who were like, I have a degree in psychology, I have a degree in art. One of my friends has a degree in religious studies, which I'm gonna have to, like, follow back up with him later about to see quite what happened there. And, you know, a couple of people were like, yeah, no degree at all, but everybody kind of had the same story, which is, like, when you are starting out, extra effort is needed by you. You as an applicant, you people here in this room right now are going to have to work harder than some other people who are looking for jobs. And it's gonna work out for you, and it's gonna be great, it's gonna be awesome, but, like, you're gonna put the effort in to make it great and awesome. It's not gonna just, like, appear as a beautiful blossom when you walk out. And the cool thing is that you guys right now are already demonstrating the most important thing in the entire world, which is, like, you are constantly learning. You are potentially, like, taking time away from working in other places. You are spending your money, you are spending your effort, you're spending your time to do skills improvement, and that is the stuff that I look for in my staff right now, right? I'm like, what new are you learning today? What has happened in the past month that we didn't know about that you are, like, now on? Because, it's just crazy, man. My team, we work a lot with Amazon Cloud. They shipped something like 4,500 features last year. I got a team of 6 people trying to keep up with what they're doing. We don't have a chance against that. It's like the boy with his finger in the dike, right? I mean, the water's just like coming straight past. And that's to your benefit, because like one of the things that you can demonstrate right now before you even graduate here is like you're willing to learn, you're willing to put the time in, and that is not something that frightens you. And like that is super valuable, man. As I'm sure you've already met like people who are just like camped out looking for their 25, wanting to grab that pension check if that's still a thing. You know, people like that are difficult to work around in the software industry because they become entrenched, they become complacent, and software doesn't wait on them. Software keeps moving, and I think that as you're going through your job hunt, like you need to emphasize this. This is very, very important. Like this is like an existential benefit that you have that you should be bringing up. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about what you can do specifically to see how I'm doing on time here. All right, so I think the first thing is that like preparation's key to having a successful job search. I think that you're probably already receiving messaging like that, and it is the truth, man. And your job search is going to be a super time-consuming process. It's going to be an investment of effort for you. There's a lot of information you're going to have to keep straight to manage it appropriately. And there's stuff that you're going to need to do. Like you need to get a pitch for yourself. You have like the elevator pitch for why you're doing this thing. What are you motivated by? Like, do you want money? Do you want to work on a cool product? Like, what makes you different from other people? What's something that someone who you're talking to on the phone for like 20 minutes is going to attach to think about you after that phone call is over? Because the first screening phone call, what people do is they imagine the person that they're talking to is themselves, right? So like the stories that you're telling them, they're saying, oh, what would I do in that situation? What would I do in that situation? You have to break that mold, man. You have to get them out of their own imagination that you are them and have them think about you as somebody else and different. Because they're going to talk to 50 people who remind them of them. And they're going to talk to one person who stands out, right? Like you can really make a huge difference there. You're going to need to spend, quite frankly, like hours researching the companies that you apply to. Especially like if you think that you're into startups and startups might be right for you. Telling people that you understand something about their product and what makes it different and better is going to stand out to them. I mean, just like please land here. This person matters a lot, right? You can't see the head nod from the C-suite in the back of the room, but like this is real, man. I've been through my share of startups, and like you know that relationship to the product means more to them than it means to anybody else. You know, a company like Google, and I have nothing bad to say about Google. You know, they have a lot of benefits there. They build a lot of different products, but like if you talk to a recruiter there and you're like, oh, I think search is the greatest thing that ever happened. Search did all this stuff for me, right? I mean, they're probably not going to remember that because search changed everybody's life, right? We used to use this thing called Gopher when I was first starting, and let's just say this is better. Yeah. So, and there's another thing that I think you can do. This is sort of like a segue, but I really wanted to like call it out. Is there are places in the labor market where warm bodies are needed to be fed into the sausage machine. And there are places in the labor market where like we can't find people with the right disposition or the right skills to fill these positions, right? And like you need to do what is right for you, but your bargaining power increases if you look for weak places in the labor market. You know, I work in, it's been called operations, it's been called DevOps, it's been called SRE. Like, fact of the matter is I'm into like production engineering and automation, and you know, they don't teach that in school, and a lot of people just don't find it interesting, which I love, because every time I show up and I'm looking for a job, I'm like, look at all this shit I can do, and you can't find anybody else that can do that, can you? You know, like, let's talk, man. I mean, that stuff is completely marketable, and it doesn't need to be like production engineering if that's not, you know, the thing that makes you wake up happy in the morning. But it's the thing that I know, and it totally like fits the mold here. So you need to look really closely to the JDs that you're following, because they're going to fall into probably 2 major camps. One is the boilerplate. I'm looking for a developer. You know, maybe we use this language. Some places say like this matters more, this matters less. And then there are other ones where they will sing out to you because they are so different, right? Like There's a company here in town called Glowforge who makes this like laser printer embedding thing. Yeah, oh, no kidding. Man, tell me what you're doing for work. You got one. They started like $2,500, man.
We were one of the first people to get one, so, and we waited years.
No, oh, you did the Kickstarter.
Yeah. When it
Sweet.
was not the prices.
Yeah, no, that was a good deal, man. Congratulations. It seems like a super cool product, but like their job descriptions are unlike everyone else's. They talk a lot about like what is their team composition. They talk a lot about what your disposition is, and not necessarily like what your skill set is. And you're going to find those. And you know, I mean, like I combat this myself as like a person who's looking for labor. Like, how do I stick out? And I mean, quite frankly, whoever's writing their JDs is a lot better at than I am. But like, you should look for those things because those people are also looking for folks who stick out. They're not looking for warm bodies for their sausage machines, and like that's an end, man. You just need one little weakness in the armor to get yourself in there, right? And then like, I mean, the interview is going to be what it's going to be, but your first objective is you have to get through the wall, which is HR. HR is there to like find good matches. HR is there to not waste the hiring team's time, and like you've got to break that barrier down, man. And it's not easy, and you're going to have to be intentional about it. So the first thing that I like to do when I'm looking for a job is I set up a Kanban board. Y'all talk about like capital A Agile Kanban. Are you familiar with this idea? Yes? Yeah, okay, well, I'll give you the quick, basically, work flows across a Kanban board from left to right. And my job Kanban board looks like, these are the jobs that I'm thinking about. These are the jobs that I have applied to. These are the jobs that I've heard back from. These are the people who rejected me, right? And every position that I apply to appears on the board. The positions that I'm thinking about appear on the board. And we're gonna talk a little bit about the research that you need to be doing, but like, I start my research as soon as I apply. If I think that JD is compelling enough to apply to, that's my hint that like, tonight when I get home, I'm gonna be looking these people up on Crunchbase. I'm gonna be looking them up on Glassdoor, like getting your research done, because when I talk to that person at HR who's trying to make sure that I'm worth their time, they're gonna know when we get off the phone that like, I am not like other people. I am different from them, and I am interested in their product, and like, there's something there, and I mean, I may botch the interview. I've certainly like destroyed my fair share of, whiteboard coding exercises, and even though I'm perfect, I have not been the best fit for everybody. But that's the way that I manage it, man. So like, I move them through. I'm thinking about it. I've applied to it. I've gotten through HR. Didn't work out. Getting a loop. And I use the cards on the Kanban board to like attach all this metadata that I gather, like what's the company like, what's their funding like who's on the team, things like that. Which is what we're going to talk about here, because you need a story about your personal relationship with their product. And this is like so important that I'm going to say it again. You need a story about your personal relationship with the product of the company that you are applying to, especially if that company is a startup. And sometimes that can be like really weird things, like people make perfume spritzers. Yeah, you know what? My aunt had this really distinctive perfume that she put on every Sunday before dinner, and I was just on the bus last week, and I smelled someone who had the same perfume, and it like brought back all of these great memories about childhood dinner with my family, Dude, shit like that is gold. And I mean, like, I'm not suggesting that you go through and make lies. I'm suggesting that you pay attention to how these people's products relate to the life that you are actually living, and find a story that you can tell them about that, because they are going to remember that. That is going to stick out. And then you're going to get to the next phase where, like, the complexity only increases as you move through the interview cycle, and ultimately, like, it's going to work out or it's going to not, but like, you need to get through these first like barriers that are going to be put in front of you. Yep. So every JD lays out a challenge. JD is a job description. I'm going to say that quite a bit, but JD is a job description. Every job description lays out a challenge. If you can read through the job description to see what the challenge is, and also talk about how that challenge resonates with you, that's another thing that's going to make you stand out, right? Like, we'll go through some in a minute, so I'll save that for then. But and you need to have this stuff ready, because like, if you're like me, I spent a lot of time preparing for this presentation. I stood up here 25-30 minutes ago, all out the head, right? So the same thing that happens when you get a call from HR. Like, it's go time, it's show time. Are you ready for that? No, you are going to forget. all this hard work that you put into because you didn't write it down, which is why you write it down so that it's ready for you when you need it. So there's a list of things that you need to make about yourself. What is the product? Does the product matter to you? This list should be comprised of like 3 sections. What do you need? What do you want? What must you not have? Some people are really motivated by product. I think that's wonderful. Call that out. If like having a relationship to the product is the most important thing for you, the people that you're talking to need to understand that. Do you care most about the team that you're going to be working on? Like, I get that too. Make sure you're talking about that. Do you love the company because they're like feeding people in impoverished areas of the world? I mean, like, talk about this stuff, man. Let them know like what matters to you. And then you need to be thinking about like, what do you want? Are you willing to yield on cash? Are you willing to yield on benefits? Do you want to be like autonomous and given your own way? Or do you want somebody who's gonna be there to like help you get ready and set you up for success? And then you gotta think about the thing that you must not have. Like, I'll tell you another little thing about myself. I quit drinking 3 years ago. I could not go work at a place where like, they were like, hey man, we crank beers all afternoon on Friday afternoons. Like, I'm just not a fit for that, right? So whatever, cool. That's the thing I can't have. And those are the people I'm not gonna talk to. Or when they tell me that on the phone, I'll be like, hey, thanks for your time. This is not right for me. Moving on. And it's important when you're talking to them and you're relaying your ideas, personal HR is gonna say like, why do we wanna talk to you? They're gonna phrase it 100 different ways, but they're gonna say like, why do we wanna talk to you? And you don't wanna be answering that with, well, maybe one time. Like, you wanna find your assertive words and you wanna give them a story that they can relate to. Because I hear that all the time. You know, the most common thing that I see on like resumes, I want to use my skills to help the company, what the hell ever, right? I mean, like, I'm not listening anymore. We all want to use our skills. That's why we built our skills. That's why you're here now, right? Your skills are valuable, man. But like, give me something I can work with. And then you're gonna look at the company JDs, like, what are they looking for? What do they need? What must they not have? And they're gonna give you like hints of them in the job description, which we'll go through now. So I pulled up a couple of these on, what do you call that, LinkedIn, looking for like entry-level developer positions. We're gonna talk about these real quick. So this one's a junior Java developer, bachelor's degree in computer science. Everybody puts this in there, they don't mean this. Pro tip, no charge. Yeah. 2 years of Java, J2 EE languages. You know what that means? Not a lot of experience. They aren't looking for senior developers. So like, I quite frankly, I'm gonna bet that they're pretty flexible on that. Okay, new and innovative applications as well as existing code base. Do any of you recognize there's actually like a super secret hint about what the problem is in this company in this line? Do you know what it is? What is it?
They're dealing with legacy code and they're trying to figure out how to get out of it.
Fucking A. Yes, that is exactly what's happening. So like, if you think that it's cool to, and I do think that this is cool myself. Some people think it's a pejorative to work on other people's code. Some people think like, oh, my code is the most beautiful. Only my code matters. I need to do my code. I don't have that. No offense to any of you who may, but like, I would be in all over this, man, because they've got debt they don't know how to handle, and I'm actually, you know, that's a sweet spot for me. I like that kind of stuff. And then, as their last line, they're bringing in what I like to refer to as the late adopter laggard Java stack, right? So like, back to the point of them having a legacy code base that they're trying to deal with. The stack that they are describing here is like 4 years old. You know, I mean, like, some of these things are super effective and that's why they're still used, but these people are saying like, this code exists, it's very important to us, and we need people who can respect that. You know, so, I don't think that they're saying anything that they must not have in here, and I think that you should apply for this if you think that that's a people. You know, here's one for just a junior software dev, which I thought was super interesting. So yeah, okay, another degree. I'm just gonna tell you, like, I don't think anybody means that when they say it. I think they cut and paste this stuff from HR, whatever. Yeah, 0 to 3 years of experience, man. This is your sweet spot. These people are telling you, like, we want someone who's interested. We want someone who's interested. Excellent problem solver. You read through this one too? You know what this is?
They got problems.
Yeah, right. Yeah, head dev left,
Yeah.
shit's alerting, and we don't know what to do. That's what this means. Which can be a great place to get in and learn, quite frankly. Like, that's, I don't know. I'm a little bit biased because that's how I learned, and I enjoyed my own experience, so I'm like, hey, you should do this, I have to listen to this. Probably not for everybody. And then the last thing is like exposure. So exposure is the key word here. These people are telling you that like experience doesn't really matter to them, but what does matter to them is like you're interested, you're willing to get in. And so their needs, they need a developer, their wants, they want somebody who's not afraid of the prospect of an existing code base that may not be behaving super well, and that must not. They don't want, wait, I think I must be missing one. Yeah. So this one was the killer here. This one means that they're actually defense contracting, and you're going to be working on base somewhere probably. But whatever, government does super interesting things. Some of them interesting for the right ways, some of them interesting for the wrong ways. But you know, they're not gonna have any BS here, man. Like if you've got a criminal history or there's some reason why you can't get a security clearance, this one's not for you. And if that's not true for you, you should totally apply for this job because it sounds like they got some stuff that's pretty interesting in there. All right, so here we're gonna talk about SRE. This was my job posting, so if you'd like to say something pejorative, this is the one to attack. I'm right here, I can take it. All right, intermediate understanding of some language. All right, well, so like maybe some dev experience, maybe some ops experience, novice understanding, so we're saying like straight up like beginners, okay, right? Novice understanding, beginners, okay, that's what you should be hearing here. And then like the last one, which, you know, coup de grace, if you will, we want to know what you're thinking about. What are you curious about? What are you interested in? And we're going to hire you possibly based on that. Like that is going to be one of the things that contributes to our decision about whether or not to hire you, because like, quite frankly, in my team, we do a lot of like, we try to use the cloud super heavily, and we're all technologists, and we're really interested in that, and like, we are completely the chasing the last shiny thing sort of folks. And you know, we want people who think that that's fun and interesting and are willing to work with the trade-offs that we're making because of that disposition. So like, this is good for you. This is a great job, right? Yeah, call me. You like this? ed@realself.com. All right. Anyway, so like, I get the feeling I'm running kind of late on time, so should I like barrel through here, or what are we doing? Okay, good. I love to hear myself talk. This is one of the reasons why Jeff was like, yeah, you should come out. You'd love to hear yourself talk. I have people who sit and listen to you. So you made your list earlier about the things that you want for yourselves and the things that you want for your company, right? So like the next biggest decision you need to be wrapping your mind around is, are you gonna go enterprise or are you gonna go startup? And every search is different, and you might be interested in one of these things now and one of these things later. There's a whole like middle ground, but the middle ground makes for really hard, sort of like difficult to show differences between the two, so I'm not gonna talk about that, but like it's a spectrum. It's not like you are a startup, you are an enterprise, there is no intermediate, like non-Boolean, you guys, developers, right? This is Boolean, so whatever. Startup advantages, in a nutshell, startup's gonna give you a wide variety of experiences. You're gonna get to wear a lot of hats. The only barrier to your learning there is gonna be your time that you can commit to working and your desire to have a life outside of work, because a startup is gonna have shit for you to do forever. You will never get through the list. That is the game. We are trying to build value all the time, right? And like, when is that process done? When someone gives us a big bag of cash and we walk away. Not before then. There's always work to be done. So that's super great. You're gonna get the chance to, like, a startup that you join that's growing gives you career growth, right? Like the barriers between the departments and startups are effectively non-existent. We worked in a single room with like, I don't know, 15, 16 people in there, like the HR dude right in front of my face. Finance guy came in twice a week, sat over there, right? Like any of these things that I was interested in or wanted to learn about, all I had to do was go say hello, and they were gonna tell me about it. Because, you know, people are attached to their jobs, man. You are gonna be attached to your job if you aren't already, right? This stuff is like what motivates us. You can learn a ton in a startup. And they tend to be super open source friendly, and like that matters in different ways to different people. What you'll find when you go to like enterprise shops is there are frequently like a long list of legal compliance things that you have to deal with to contribute to open source. You have to go through like all these departments, and like that's good and well and all, but you should know that that's a system where like you go to a startup and you're like, oh, this library's kind of jacked and it needs support for this new feature that's in the API. You can just write that, you put it out there, and then like your name's on it, your company's name's on it. That's good for you, right? You're gonna put that on your resume. Trust me, put that on your resume. And then like the thing that is super different about startups from enterprise shops is the promise of equity. And like, I don't know if y'all are talking about equity. Equity is it's a very broad topic that I'm not going to attempt to explain to you here. But you can think of it like the Powerball ticket, man. Like, probably it means nothing. But there is a chance, like, if you build the right value and the market's right and, like, you know, all the stars align, you can really come away with some irrational financial benefits from working in a startup. It is probably not going to happen, but it is possible there. Where at an enterprise shop, you know, your equity stakes are probably going to be cash equivalent, right? Like you're like 6%, 8%, something like that of your annual, and that's good. You can take it to the bank, like they're publicly listed. You can see how the company's doing. You're not going to come in Thursday to that meeting that I went to, which was like, hey Ed, you got to go home. Yeah, get some cash. You know, it's got its benefits, but whatever. The thing that if you do think that you want to play the startup game, I deeply encourage you to, the first telephone call that you have with these people, ask them what the runway is. The runway is how long can we operate with the cash that we have on hand, and how much money is coming in, right? Because that says how long it is until something needs to change. Like market adoption needs to pick up, maybe there's another round of funding coming in, but like it's important to share with them that it matters to you, like what is the health of the business, and they will like it even more if they're like, well, we're kind of in trouble and there's only like 10 months of runway right now, and you're like, great, smells like opportunity, right? Dude, that totally resonates with people. Enterprise advantages, so like the other side, I worked with a lot of enterprises. I found the processes, the formality of it to be like a little overbearing for me, but some of the things that were super great for them is like they have problems of scale, which you will not find at a startup, almost certainly. They have benefit packages that are gonna cover your entire family, get like easy vacation. A lot of times, like Google is famous for this. When I interviewed with Google several years ago, they were like, you know, we just think that the first 6 months of somebody's time here, like, we just put them in classrooms, they can learn, they can find out stuff. How do you hire somebody and wait 6 months for them to, like, meaningfully contribute, you know? But, like, when you're not under the pressure to generate revenue, you can do things like that. And it's obviously working for them. Like, you can go follow their stock ticker just as well as I am. Like, I'm not being critical of that system. I'm a little curious about how it works. But, you know, I mean, that's a real benefit. If you love learning, you want to be a student, go work at a huge company, man, because they're going to have programs to get you to conferences. They're going to have time that they can give you to learn, and probably like formal support programs too. So your first contact, you need to write a cover letter for every job that you apply to. Not a joke. There's this website you should go to, hrnasty.com. Shameless plug for my friend there. But I get, 35 resumes a week for one open position. I either get no cover letter, I get a cover letter where someone has failed to substitute my business's name in for whatever they were applying to before, and then I get the one who's like, hey man, I think your product's super interesting. Like, I work at a company where we do review site for cosmetic surgery and dentistry, and they're like, I think that's super interesting. I had this cosmetic surgery done, you know, like my grandmother had breast cancer. You know, things like that. Like, people have all these like weird attachments to the value of our product, and like, that's a person I'm calling back, man. Somebody who's like, I know who you are, I know what you're doing, and I'm interested in it. Like, we are going to talk. I can guarantee you we are going to talk about that. I don't care if their resume says they're making sandwiches at McAllister's Deli in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm going to call that person up and to see what is in their mind and, you know, what they're looking to do. So this is your objective. You need to be memorable. Job cycle always looks like this. You post the job. You get lots of resumes. HR filters them out. HR phone screens people. Hiring manager screens people. Then you get the interview loop, and then you get the offer of the decline, right? Like, you can take it to the bank. There may or may not be a code test in there, but like, that's what's going to happen every single time, every corporation that you go to. So you made it through because you did a cover letter, and you got an awesome story about like how you relate to the product, right? You're going to tell that to the HR person when they call you. They're going to schedule this ahead of time. They're going to give you a calendar. How do you say this? Calend.ly link, right? Like, set up a time to call me for 25 minutes on Thursday of next week. And when you talk to them, you're going to have your notes ready. You're going to know about the company. You're going to know about what your relationship is to their problem. And you're going to have the story for like why you are different, why you matter. Like, I know I'm repeating this over and over again because it is just like so existentially important to stand out. Because we talk to so many people, and you would not believe the people who are effectively like not actively engaged in their job search. They're like, it's like, what do you call that? play the numbers. It's been a long time since I was single, but like you play the numbers, right? You go to the bar, you talk to 25 people, like, you know, maybe one of them wants to talk to you, maybe not. A lot of people do that with their job search. I don't understand that, whatever, people do it. I don't really give them a ton of consideration, quite frankly. Like, you know, I'm like, oh, okay, great, so somebody else will call you back because I don't really have time for this. You know, I want people who care about what we're doing. So, just like the first contact objective was to be memorable, the second contact objective is to be memorable, because no one's evaluating you yet for your technical skills. No one is trying to see, like, are you a great fit into this team or not, because they can't figure that shit out in 20 minutes, right? They want to know, like, are we lined up on comp? Are you saying kind of the right words? And is there a reason for other people to talk to you? And if you talk to them, you should talk to them about your list, like what's on your must list, what's on your want list, what's on your must not list, because like you can end this early. You shouldn't waste your time, you shouldn't waste their time. Then you're gonna get the hiring manager screen, which is like when you finally get to talk to on the telephone. Maybe we'll go out for coffee or lunch. And the thing that I want is the thing that I've been telling you so far. Like, I want a story about what you understand about my company. I want to understand like what you're interested in, and I want to understand how you're going to fit into my existing team. Because every time that I bring someone into my team or someone leaves from my team, I have a new team. The team operates as like an organic body, right? It isn't, we don't have like a super hierarchical structure. Everyone doesn't report to me at 8:15 in the morning. Like, we all work together to find problems, to find solutions for the problems that we hit in the day. So you're looking to make a connection here, right? When you talk to me, you want me to leave understanding that like you're interested in my team's gonna be interested in you, we're gonna be a great fit, it's gonna be beautiful, and you deserve an offer. But before that, I want the rest of the team to make sure that like you and I didn't just have great chemistry and you're actually not a good fit for the team. I've had this happen before where like I have a certain style, you have probably gotten some exposure to largely what it is, like somebody's coming in making jokes with me, I'm like, oh, we're gonna hire this person, like I love that shit, you know, they like swore at me, I'm like, oh, please, you're perfect, you're just like me. But my team says they can only handle one of me at a time. So, this is why you like meet the rest of the team, because they're like, yeah, you know what, we talked to this person and like, they hate women. You know, like that stuff happens, man, and that is why you talk to the team, and that is why you are going to be engaged with a wide variety of people in the team. Like everyone you talk to isn't going to look like me, because we're going to see how you interact with different people. Because my office, like even though I am perfect and obviously like you know full of myself, I'm not the only person there, and like how you work with me is only a very small portion of like what's going to make you successful or not successful in my team. And then like, so you make it through the loop, last objective, sweet money. I love this one. But by the end of your loop, you should be feeling like super jazzed. Companies who are like super serious about closing you are probably going to talk to you the same day about like, hey, we want to make a deal. Like, what does it look like? We want to give you an offer. We're super excited. The team is stoked to have you on the team. Like, and the important thing for you to know about that is like you need to know already what you're going to ask for. What are the specifics that are going to happen? Because like they don't want to hear, oh, can I call you back? Like, let me get my shit together and talk to you later. No, they want to hear that you're excited too, man. They want you like, somebody comes to you with like happy excitement, you want to close that with happy excitement too. They're like, hey, we want to make you an offer. Like, what does this deal look like? Like, well, I want, 25 grapples. Like, perfect. That's exactly what we were budgeted for this. Like, we'll see you on Monday, right? You give a 2-week notice, maybe not. You're like, 27 grapples, see you on Monday. Okay. Done. See you Monday. Sorry, existing job. Yeah, no. So that's just kind of like it goes. And then at the end, right, you're here, you're in the team. Thank you for staying with me through all this. I feel like I've taken a little bit extra of your time, but I'm still here. Like, you guys want to talk, Q&A. I hear that's kind of the thing that happens here. Obviously, I have a lot of opinions, only some of them bounded in fact. So, whatever. Yeah. Cool. How does this part work? You raise your hands or? Yeah. What's happening? You, gentleman in the brown shirt.
Somebody
Second row.
from a, like a lot of us are coming from very diverse backgrounds.
Yes.
after you make it through the loop, how does that conversation actually go? Like, I imagine the first time you go through, like, you either way overshoot or way undershoot, no matter what you actually research. Like, is there any
Are you
advice?
talking about like salary negotiations?
Yeah,
You
like
say,
when it comes to
how does that go?
negotiation and benefits too. Like,
Yeah.
frankly, a lot of industries, benefits are like, you mean I get a week off?
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me tell you about the benefits of working in tech in Seattle, a
Yeah, I know
super
it's a lot of-
competitive market.
The idea
Yeah.
is-
So there is actually like relatively high quality information on Glassdoor for like any job that you're realistically going to apply for. Most of the companies have like, at this company, this position has this range, and it'll be like, you know, $15,000-$20,000 range on like an entry level position. Most companies don't do those like super wide bands anymore, where like some people for this job we pay them $80,000. Some people for this job we pay them like $130,000. Like I'm kind of happy to say like that isn't really a common practice anymore, even though you may like find a couple of spots of it. But Glassdoor is going to give you high quality information for that. And then the thing that I like to think about is like, okay, there's a range. What separates me from the other people who are applying for this job? And is that something that we can negotiate on, or is that just something that makes me wonderful? You know, because like I like to kayak, probably not going to bring that up as a differentiator unless I'm talking to like someone who makes kayaks, which there are actually like some people around here who do that. Like, hell yeah, dude, I love kayaks too, right? So we're talking top end of the range. I'm so excited about your product. I love the team. Like, let's make this thing happen. Yeah.
I'm interested in the step just before going into the loop. I understand fully the idea that you're a fit, but you want to see the fit on the loop. What if it's the reverse? What if a hiring manager is not connected? This person doesn't match me
Yep.
demographically, temperamentally.
Totally.
They aren't like me, and that is a barrier that goes on.
Absolutely.
I don't know if hiring managers are self-assessing themselves
Yep.
for that, but I'm thinking as a prospective employee's position, what do we do? I
Yeah.
didn't get my chance at the loop.
Yeah, I mean, so the question is like, what happens when you're not getting like a rapport built with the hiring
Maybe there would
manager?
have been a rapport with 3 out of 5 loops or something.
Yep. Yeah. I can tell you how I personally do that. Is if I think that we have someone who's a skills match, that okay, so I expect when I'm interviewing people that they are not at their best. They're like nervousness is high. Their minds are all over the place because they don't follow my system of like, you know, getting everything ready ahead of time, or maybe like that isn't a thing that brings them power to the discussion. So like if there's kind of two ways that can go. One way where that goes is like, as a hiring manager, if I hear you saying things that are on my must not list, then like I'm probably not going to move you forward. But if I hear you saying things that you're in my need list and you're in my want list, I will leave a note for the loop and be like, okay, I had kind of mixed feelings about this, but I think this person deserves like a wider audience and a more full vetting than I'm able to give them. I don't know that happens everywhere, but yeah, I mean, it can be tough. Like, I haven't had a lot of conversations with people who like just shut down on something like that. I have had a lot of conversations with people where we were like just totally out of phase on salary, or like the job that I thought that they were hiring for and the job that they really were hiring for weren't quite the same thing, and it was obvious that like what they needed wasn't what I wanted to do or wasn't what I was good at or whatever. You know, that's a little bit more common than like you have kind of an awkward interaction, because I think most people that are hiring managers expect that to be a little bit weird, and we know that like people aren't always on their A game. Yeah, we'll go to the back and then over here, all right?
My name is George, and a lot of what you said really resonated, but you know, I'm just gonna be singing your praises the whole time. Because you said you're so full of yourself already.
Yeah, no, I don't need a fluffer, man.
I really wanted to say you sound so ideal as an employer, but I know that there are carbon copies of you out there. How many would you say employers think as you think in terms of hiring and keeping
Yeah.
people in mind like that? You know?
Yeah, I think it's all in the organization. You know, part of the reason that I'm so active in like what's a good fit for me, what do I care about hiring, is because my team is small, right? Less than 10 people. Every one of them has the opportunity to like take the entire team forward or put everybody in like a psychological hole, right? So like it matters a lot to me. And if I hire somebody who's not like syncing up, can't produce or whatever, like it's not just about like wasting money on that, but like I hurt myself, more than financially. Like my team's not producing correctly, it gets the whole company down, like things like that. So I mean, I don't know. There's like an echo chamber thing that happens, right? Where like I have a peer group of managers who have a very similar attitude to me. So like I know I'm not the only one here, because we go have lunch about once every 2 months over at South Lake Union. But like I don't know, it's totally hit and miss, and I think it's largely driven by like what are the economic factors that play into the organization, and like the dynamics are a little bit different. Like if you work in an organization of several hundred engineers and like I hire you, you're not a great fit on my team, you're still an awesome developer, like I'm gonna be talking to my peer managers about like, I got this super person, this isn't really like, I think we might not have the right fit, I think they're really great for your team, and there's almost always like a lot of flexibility that can happen once you're in with things like that, because like everybody's really interested in the best outcomes, because like it looks bad on me if like I hire you and it's not going well, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is it. You need to go. Like, that isn't going to look good on Glassdoor. Like, I was there like 2 weeks. These people totally brushed me off, and it isn't just about the reviews, but I'm just saying, like, the way that we interact with candidates matters over the long term, not just like placing one or four.
Thank you, that
Yep.
makes sense.
Cool.
Hey, so I had a question about kind of how you prepare yourself with like a series of questions to ask folks during your interview loop. I know in the past I've been on them where I'm interviewing with like 6 different people in a day, and I get to that last person and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna ask anything else. I feel like I've already learned all there is. Any advice for dealing with that?
Yeah, I have a technique that may not be good for you, which is like, I'm just gonna throw this out there. I realize like some or all of you are going to experience this. Like it's completely fucking inhumane to ask people to come and be under pressure for like 6 hours nonstop during the day, and I have done that. You will do that. You will survive, but it's wrong. And like, you don't have a lot of power as an early stage candidate to say like, hey, can we work on this? I don't really have like an entire day to spend with you all. Plus, I'm gonna be totally fried after 2 hours, and like you're not gonna get the best of me. I actually like to. So when I do hiring manager screens, it is actually almost always apparent to me within 20 minutes of talking to somebody like what their technical sort of disposition is, where their skill is. So I actually don't usually do the in-office loops anymore. We let the teams do that. My team, we follow an embedded model, so like we have feature development teams that someone from my team's gonna be liaison from. The feature development team's gonna do a thing about like how do you work well with other people, what do you like, what do you dislike, how do you manage work, things like that. And then you do 2 sections with my team where we're gonna be like, do you really know the things that you claim to know? Are you interested in learning? And like, it's sort of interesting, and it's a really salient point to bring up. Like, almost everyone who interviews you is gonna want to understand what you do when you don't know the answer, because that happens all the time. And like, that is not the time to start making bullshit up. That's the time to admit you don't know and you're ready to learn. And like, I mean, it's like angels singing. So I don't know, when I was doing still like in-office loops, I actually like to talk to people about stuff that isn't work, because like everybody else is talking to them about work, and I know that when we meet as a team afterwards, like how did this loop go, I'm gonna hear everything that I wanted to know and more about like, do you understand how to do this in Python, or like what's this thing in AWS, like everybody's got that. So like I'm actually much more likely to try to get you talking about things that aren't necessarily directly work related, to keep it interesting and to avoid that, right? I mean, give people a chance to recharge. It's like, yeah, it's just so draining, man. Yeah. Hi.
So some of us are coming into this as like a second career,
Sure.
things like that. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are and considerations for you've got such a big career professional stuff like that coming into these sorts of positions. almost fearful of being maybe overqualified for some things, not others.
Yeah, that can happen. You know, one of the things that I love to hear is like how the job that you had before brings additional value to what we're asking you to do here. Because like, I mean, only a fool could not admit that, right? Or someone who's just like so wrapped up in their own ego that they are insane could not see that there's value there. So one of the things that I'm gonna look for, and actually one of the things I kept hearing from my Twitter network is like the lady with the art degree who's like, I don't know, CTO at this enterprise software company. She was like, I like to tell people about how art is a creative pursuit and writing software is a creative pursuit. She's like, nobody questions me anymore because I've been working for 25 years. But she was like, I had to tell people that because they didn't understand that like the thing that I understood was valuable to the business like immediately. And I think like no matter what your earlier career has been, you're dealing with like, how do you work with other people? What are the like, how, I don't know if I have to say this, like, what are the finances of business, right? Like, it's astounding to me how many people come out of college with like a non-functional understanding of how money works and how money works inside a business. Like, and at the end of the day, like, you know, sometimes the money sort of like funny money, sometimes it's a little bit like strapped for cash, but you know, that is super valuable. And I also like to hear stories about like, you know, our work can be very interrupt driven, so I like to hear about how people handle like, I was trying to do this one thing and then this other thing happened, you know, and like parents can be super great with those stories because children are merciless in their desire for attention, and like, you know, I'm putting together the hydrogen bomb and I can't let the red wire touch the blue wire. Like, my daughter doesn't give a shit about that. She's like, I want to play Lego, stop what you're doing, play Lego with me. I'm like, oh, Daddy has this really complicated things going. She's like, whatever, dude, like, I would sit on your computer. Stop, you know, play with me now. But like, I mean, this is an example, right? Like, where things like that happen in your career, and I think that's something that if you aren't getting hints from the person that you're talking to that they understand how valuable that is, like, jump up and tell them how valuable it is. Like, I mean, it's kind of weird, like, I am actually a fairly introverted person, and I don't like to celebrate, you know, my accomplishments and my wins. But when I go into job hunting mode, I turn on the salesman, man, and like, I don't know, like, if I met me on the street when I was looking for a job, it probably wouldn't like me all that much. But it's important, like, don't leave that as an exercise for the people who are trying to do the hiring. You know, you tell them why you matter and why you are valuable and how your experience is relevant to them. Like, maybe they'll connect the dots and maybe they won't. You won't have to wonder because you're going to tell them, right? Like, I know how to do these things already. Like, this is good. This is going to be good. We are going to make beautiful music together. Yep. All right. Going once. Going twice. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, let me see what it is.
Oh, this one did it?
Yeah.
Actually,